Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. House prosecutors are claiming early victory in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. This as the panel presented their first witness on the impeachment article alleging grave threats. The trial is headed into another pivotal week with the prosecution seeking the testimony of Duterte's chief of staff and hinting at stronger evidence. Let's get on point with House Prosecution Panel Spokesperson Congressman Zia Alonto Adiong. Congressman, always good to have you. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you for the invitation.
When I was reading the opening statement, not the opening, feeling ko nasa courtroom na rin ako.
Preliminary remarks.
yung aking opening remarks.
Yeah.
Natawa ho kayo nung sinabi kong the prosecution is claiming victory. Why is that?
Well, I was interviewed and I think that's what I said. I was actually flagged by saying that we claimed victory on the first day. I was actually referring to the fact that for over a year now, we've been wanting to have the impeachment trial, and we've been wanting for the evidence in the case that to present to before the court, and not only to the court but to the people. So on that context alone, I felt victorious, no? Because mababaw ang kaligayahan ko eh. Basta lang tumuloy-tuloy ang proseso at makita yung ebidensya, that to me at the very least, no, is already a victory, because with everything that we do in this impeachment trial is for the people. We serve the interest of the public because we're talking about accountability here. Yeah.
The first 3 days, of course, at least day 2 and day 3, was focused on testing the credibility of your first witness, NBI Senior NBI Agent Kalilong, and the authenticity of the video that was presented. I guess my first question there would be, has it been established that the video is authentic, that there were no splices, it was not edited, and anything else to that?
Yes, I think the testimony of the witness, Mr. Kalilong, stands in as far as establishing his competency to testify on evidence, on the digital evidence, because he's the one actually who collated that and preserved that, the evidence. The Zoom meeting, Zoom hearing, or whatever you call it, by the Vice President, wherein she stated and she uttered these grave threats. But it was also used by the defense. A portion of the video also was shown by the defense, that the portion where Zuleika was responding to questions to media who joined this Zoom call, Zoom conference. So from that alone, it would seem that the defense admitted the authenticity of the video. Kasi why would they use that if they're actually questioning the authenticity
so
of
you're
the
saying
video?
That is a recognition that the video that was presented is authentic?
Yeah, because number one, they didn't even, they were short in proving to the court that what we have presented there, the portion where the Vice President uttered the grave threats against the President, the First Lady, and the former Speaker, was in fact not the Vice President, or did not even utter this, or they failed to prove to the court that portion of the words were either inserted or either spliced or probably some tampering of the sounds. It was purely an evidence that was not directly questioned by the defense, but they rather tried to question the credibility of the witness, whether she's an expert witness or whether she is a competent witness. So what would be the difference? So they tried to point that out.
Expert versus competent, that was raised.
In fact, they haven't actually addressed or rebut the authenticity issue. Rather, what they told the court is the context by which the Vice President, was saying all these words, all the grave threats. So basically, what they're saying is, yes, it's unconventional, but it is justified because of some, I don't know. They also came out for the first time that there was accordingly, allegedly, a plan Romanov. And so they said maybe the Vice President was forced to say this because she was angry. But despite the context, whatever the context is, grave threat cannot be tolerated. Grave threat cannot be acceptable, especially coming from the second highest official of the land. So,
does it matter if it's conditional or absolute?
No, because we already have a law on that, even the ruling by the Supreme Court. The fact that you have said things that threatens a person, it's not actually you who should be the focus of the court, it's actually the effect of your threats to the person that you're being threatened, right? The purpose of having this law against grave threats is precisely in order not to consummate the crime. You have this law in order to avoid, this crime or this threat being materialized, right? So the threat that was made against not only the person, in this case, the president, personality of the president and the first lady and the former speaker, the threat was also directed against the office, because you cannot separate President Bongbong Marcos from being the commander-in-chief, from being the head of the government, from being the head of the state, right? And so it is but proper for the National Bureau of Investigation to intervene and make some preliminary investigation, because that's part of their mandate.
Okay. Just very quickly, though, I read this a while ago, coming from the Inquirer. It said it was a portion of what former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said. Excuse me, sir. He says, who can authenticate the video? So still talking about who should authenticate this video. He says, who can authenticate the video? Me, since I broadcasted the video. Any of the 42 participants, including VP Sara and Attorney Laika, and FB, di pwede si Kalilong. So far, video is inadmissible without authentication. That's why pwede ho tayong bumalik dito sa authentication. Again, let me also say this, sir. Maybe to even some people, why the need to authenticate? I mean, on the flip side, a video that was seen by so many people, not just in the Philippines, maybe possibly, of course, also around parts of the world, because it was trending, it was interesting for some, it was threatening for some, and 2 days just trying to authenticate this video and testing the credibility of NBI senior agent Kalilong.
Yeah, well, let me just comment on the first question that you asked. It was not taped. It was actually broadcasted live, and the purpose of that is for others to also see, the condition of Ms. Zulaika during her detention, right? That's the purpose of that. So it was not taped, it was not rehearsed, it was not cut, it was not edited, it was broadcasted live. And the purpose of that is essentially to broadcast it live for the whole country to see and to watch, right? And there are other media personalities there who were present during the room. If you're talking about who would authenticate, maybe they're the one can also be maybe they can also be asked if they can authenticate. But the purpose of authentication is that Mr. Kalilong's job is to make sure that the video, the Zoom video, which was broadcasted online, and you can actually grab that anywhere you want on YouTube and anywhere, any platform, social media platform, is to make sure that once they start the preliminary investigation, they will be ensured that every single word uttered by the Vice President will be uttered by her and not tampered by digital, glitches or etc. So that is what the Mr. Kalilong
Ibig sabihin, sorry to cut you, kung ano ang nasabi noon, nung ito ay live, ang pinreserve po ni NBI senior agent ay eksakto kung ano yung sinabi noong live.
And eksakto anong sinabi niya. And why is this important? Because we need to establish the Vice President indeed serious in making these threats. Number two, whether she really was the one in the video saying these threats. Because when we're talking about grave threats coming from the second highest official of the land, you don't talk about context. These are not just sentences. These are signals. these are signals. And she did qualify that by describing her as, we had an arrangement, she already said yes, and then wag kang tumigil hanggat hindi mo mapatay itong tatlong taong to. And she said yes, no joke, no joke. So it was meant to be understood seriously, right? So I think that's part of how the country would be able to understand this allegation of betrayal of public trust, because, you know, it is the conduct of the vice president that is in question here. How can we even accept and tolerate a highest official of the land to, you know, to act in such a manner that is opposite to what she has sworn to protect Constitution, the principle of rule of law. No one should put justice into their own hands.
But does that put to question her credibility to sit as vice president?
Yes, because her conduct of being the vice president, by just mere, agreeing or contacting a hitman, is already, to us, a betrayal of public trust. Remember, Ms. Pinky, we heard about the defense in their preliminary remarks, saying that 32 million actually voted her. She is the highest, the only, or perhaps the only public official who has garnered the highest number of votes. But if you try to flip that and put it into the context of accountability, the 32 votes also mean 32 million trusts. And they were voted, she was voted in office with a kulatilla that she cannot be absolutely immune to all other violations, to all crimes, right? The 32 million votes does not go with it absolute immunity, right? How much more kung impunity pa, diba? So that conduct alone, to us, betrays public trust. That's why it constitutes impeachment offense.
We'll be taking a short break. We'll continue our discussion with Congressman Zia Alonto Adiong when we return. Stay tuned. This is On Point. Welcome back. Still with us, House Prosecution Panel Spokesperson Congressman Zia Alonto Adiong. Congressman, do you plan to call a doctor, a psychologist, or psychiatrist to be part of the trial next week?
I actually would want to answer your question, but this is part of the strategy, how our House Prosecution Panel will be able to present witnesses. What I can tell you is that if it's necessary, I guess that's within the realm of possibility. But right now, I cannot confirm to you, with certainty that would be possible in the coming days.
I want to talk about what's going to happen on Monday. On Monday, it's another NBI agent.
Lotok.
Agent Lotok also.
Lotok, yeah.
And what is his role here? What can we expect from his testimony?
Well, he would also corroborate the testimony of Mr. Calilong. He's actually also in charge of the whole investigation when the Vice President was making all these threats. Making threats. But let me also point out that what we tried to establish by the prosecution panel, if you watch the first day, when Attorney Virgil, I call him Attorney Virgil, tried to establish not just the portion of the video of that Zoom conference, but there were also that pattern of the Vice President saying, puputulan ng ulo ang presidente, huhukayin yung
Sinabi ko kay Senator Amy.
Yes, exactly. So even prior to that, to that Zoom meeting, there were already an indication how she might maybe imagine herself cutting the head of the president. But these are patterns. Like, this would give the court and even the people an idea where the Vice President actually would, yung parang, yung kanyang puot to a point that she made the threat against the president. No?
But when you talk about pattern, it makes one think that there's
really that
going
intent.
to be motivation from the prosecution to possibly call a doctor.
Well,
a
again,
psychologist or psychiatrist?
well, again, that would be within the realm of possibility, but I cannot say for certain.
But do you know,
certainty.
or you can't just tell us?
No, it's just that we don't want also to preempt what's going to be the direction
Okay.
or the flow of the trial, because that would also be unfair to the senator judges,
Okay.
right?
So sa Monday, si NBI agent Lotok, question, sir, is he the superior of Kalilong?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
And then
Because Kalilong is just in charge lang siya doon sa authenticate ng video and pag-preserve ng video. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he's the
Pero meron bang surprise witness on Monday?
meron ho kaming ilalabas na malakas na mga ebidensya at saka testigo. Yeah.
Kasi nung bago po natapos yung hearing nung Wednesday, I was listening to the prosecution congressman. I'm not sure if it was Congressman Defensor. I'm not certain right now. But they identified who the witness will be on Monday.
That's Congressman Defensor.
Defensor. Sabi niya Monday is going to be Mr. Lotok of the NBI. Sabi niya Tuesday will be Attorney Zulaika Lopez. And then Wednesday is, if I'm not mistaken...
Captain Bello.
Bello, okay.
Bello.
So yung Monday, sabi mo nga, sure na si Lotok, pero meron kayong ilalabas na, sabi mo, strong evidence and strong...
For next week. Not for
Monday.
Week. Yeah, not necessarily Monday. Okay. For next week. Meron talagang may lalabas dyan na mga material evidence na that would corroborate further. In fact, would strengthen the case of the prosecution.
Corroborate which one? Grave threats?
Yeah, we're talking
still
about
grave
threats. Talking about grave threats. So it's purely on the issue of the Vice President making these grave threats against
Then
the
one
President.
would think it would be that alleged assassin. Yan po yung posibleng tinutukoy.
Well, again, I do not want to answer you that directly because it would also be unfair on the side of... Kasi ganito kasi yan, Ma'am Vicky. Anything can actually change kasi the both sides, not just the prosecution but the defense panel, has that option to also change the course of the presentation of the witness for as long as they inform the court and the opposing panel.
But they need to acknowledge and recognize the 3-day rule.
Exactly.
If you are going to present a reserved witness, is what they call it.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, Ma'am Pinky, is that those are just the guide for the court to follow the presentation of the prosecution, but then it's also within the discretion of the prosecutions that they can inform the court that they'll be changing the presentation or the sequence by which testimony or evidence would be presented before the court.
Not to belabor the point, sir, I'm just thinking that if there's that 3-day rule by which both sides are supposed to be made aware of a reserved witness or a surprise witness, I'm just thinking that it has to be made on Monday, and if it is told on Monday, you cannot present that witness on Wednesday. Kailangan po sa susunod na linggo pa.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. But as long as, in fact, it's not only the 3-day rule. Kasi the defense wanted it to have a longer day for the court to be informed, 5 days. So we agreed on that because sabi namin para hindi na magkaroon pa ng delay, okay lang yan, di ba?
Okay.
But there's also that 1 day with one witness, one trial day rule, no? So kaya if ever na magpa-present ka, so yun lang yung witness na yun. On the same day.
That's why Congressman Defensor had said that
yes,
these are the witnesses. So let's do Tuesday, sir. Ang sabi po ni Congressman Defensor, Tuesday is Attorney Zulaika Lopez. Why?
Well, first and foremost, she was used by the portion of the video was actually used by the defense to put context or justification to the threat. Again, threat cannot be justified. It is not acceptable. It should not be tolerated, whatever the context is. So it was... her presence would have been made by the defense as a material to the case of the grave threats because she was there inside the room, right? She probably heard, the Vice President making all these threats against the President and the Vice President, the First Lady and the former Speaker. So that on that context alone, I think her presence there would even prove the case of the prosecution, that it was really the Vice President who was making all these threats, because she was inside that room at the same time when these words were being uttered through in the Zoom meeting. It was actually the defense who presented
snippets of that video.
Yeah, so that's why we've been saying that the question of authenticity has already been established and could not be assailed anymore, because they used a portion of the video which we presented, right, as their counter evidence to establish, the context and justification for the court to maybe balance it out, diba?
I actually had an interview previously with former Dean Mel Santamaria, and he actually said that the prosecution outsmarted the defense by that particular video, wherein they only showed that part of the Vice President alleging that threat, and then subsequently the defense using that same video to point out their case, pero snippets naman ang ginamit nila. Attorney Zulaika Lopez. Just wanted to bring that part of the conversation. But how prepared? I can imagine that the prosecution is prepared for Attorney Zulaika Lopez. But how, she's called a hostile witness, right? Yung po tawag sa kanya. But would it still be a gamble, you think, to actually call her, for the prosecution to actually call her?
Well, that's the purpose of hostile witness, right? Remember, you are not actually sure what would be the response of a hostile witness. In this case, if Zulaika would be called to the witness stand, the question would then be limited to her knowing exactly if these words were uttered by the Vice President. But I'm not saying that would be the flow of the question of the prosecution. I'm just saying, since they have already indicated by the defense, showing some portion of her response to the media, that would indicate, for example, if she would be taking the witness stand on Tuesday, then that her participation or her questioning by the prosecution would revolve around her being there in the room and whether she can actually testify.
They can contain it to that particular angle. Yeah. Has the subpoena been approved? I understand that it needs to be approved by the impeachment court. Is that true?
I'm not so sure about whether it was approved, but we have already indicated that. In fact, Congressman Noy Defensor even said that in an open court, that this would be the witnesses that we will present next week. So yes, of course, we would definitely request for the subpoena, because that's part of how we were expected to do.
And then after that, Wednesday is going to be
Captain Bello.
Captain Bello. And this is still on grave threats?
Yes.
Still?
Yes, still.
And who is Captain Bello?
Well, she's the head of our, if I'm not mistaken, she's the head of our security, part of the SAA, the Sergeant at Arms personnel, where she is also involved in the detention facility, securing the detainees.
Last question, sir. Attorney Zulaika Lopez said last Thursday, I believe, she visited the Senate, and she said, prepare for Typhoon Inday. Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, we've been preparing for any calamities, but she should also be the one to ensure the public that once a calamity happens in this country, the Vice President is ready to respond. Unfortunately, in many cases, yung nakailan lang na bagyo, hindi rin siya, wala siya sa bansa. But I will take that simply as just one of her saying na ang Vice President kasi Inday ang pangalan, di ba? So lahat naman kami nakahanda nakahanda naman.
Hindi naman kayo natakot, sir.
Well, it's just maybe she's just want to make some PR, di ba? She wants to well, that's her way of saying na. I think that's also a way for them to feed the ego of their support base. No? Okay. So it does not answer the allegation.
The impeachment trial continues on Monday. House Prosecution Panel Spokesperson, Congressman Zia Alonto Adiong.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Ms. Pinky.
Thank you. That's On Point. Join us again Monday, 7:30 p.m. here on VNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.